It's like Jimmy Durante. Do y'all hear Jimmy Durante after that? Like a yeah or something like that. I don't know. That's just a wild little tune. So we're Tigger in it tonight, everybody. Mr. Tigger. Don't hold Disney against him. They did some good stuff. Look, look, look. Tigger was one of them. Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to Hot Mess Express. If you're jumping back and forth to see Lynn, please finish Lynn because I'm going to talk for a minute. You're not going to miss anything. Because she's doing a great job over there on Midwest. So go see him. Go see her. She's telling her story about omnipresent. Hope I get that right. I know the first book is omnipresent. The second book, I believe, is what happened after. But I think I think it's something different than omnipresent too. She got wonderful books and The Colors of Heaven. And she's telling her story about a house that was so haunted she couldn't even move into it. And I'll tell you, when you see a full apparition of a young man that looked, it just surprises me that more people don't just scream and run. And I guess they do, but because you think it's an actual person. Do you see where I'm coming from? You haven't even processed the fact that this is a ghost. This isn't a real person. That process is probably one of the scariest things that, can be really well described in a good story where you're realizing, like say Jacob not say it was a good story, but you know what I mean? Like that's what I tried to do when Jacob was in the cave with Coralie, excuse me. And he's realizing that the flashlight beam is going through her legs and he can see it, When she tells the story about the man that walked up the stairs and he was so solid, like she's trying to, what's going on here? And just walks right, possible residual. I don't know. Need more information on that. We've talked about it, Lynn and I, but it's just an amazing story. And it's almost unconscionable to think that living human beings, are going through these kind of amazing things. But most of them are downright, life-changing, scary, or, completely life-changing. And you know what I mean? And that's one of the things about this subject that, we keep trying to, why we meet all the time here and try to talk about it, because we're trying to bring that to the surface. It's like, yes, these dark things do exist and people are going through this and it's nothing to mess with. There's nothing to play with. And you don't take it lightly, let's put it this way. No, I wouldn't make fun of it, or battle it for no reason with no, you see what I mean? But the light is there too. And everybody misses that, right? Or a lot of people miss that. Signs, the affirmations, the validations, the messages, the love that continues, right? So her story is definitely right up there with can you imagine if she was in there and she got stuck? I mean, it was not an easy thing for her to go through what she went through and her family and still trying to sort that, So that's a great story. So if you're bouncing back and forth, please don't worry. Like I said, I'm going to just announce some things. First things first, before I even say hello, I want to say that we lost somebody in the paranormal community. And I'm sure many people are doing moments of silence and memoriams and just shocked at a 48-year-old man that just one of us out there. Everybody's got their specialty, but or their interest in. But Paranormal Chop Shop, we lost Sonny. So if we could just take a moment right out the gate, no pun intended, to remember him and to remember how many others, people that we've lost in this, and that was their quest. And maybe, to find out what's on the other side. I had a customer come in and we were doing a story. Doing some flowers for him, and he was waiting, and I had my hoodie on. And he said, "What's a gatekeeper?" And I said, "Sonny from Paranormal Chop Shop." podcast. And I'm sure there's many people out there. Steve knew him well. I myself did not. I've never met him personally. But again, one of us, man. So, but the guy came in and he said, "What's a gatekeeper?" And I said, "Well, I got a podcast and ready. That's what the listeners like. They chose to call themselves gatekeepers, and it's kind of profound because of what we're trying to do. And it's not so much of keeping somebody out. It's more like we're going to wait there at the entrance because you need help. We're right here, and you'll meet some nice people along the way. Maybe if you need some pointers along the way, or you need a little assistance, or we might have a specialty or something we went through. We can tell you how we did it and how others did it. And maybe you can, get a little help that way along the way." And I said, we do that in the paranormal and supernatural. We do some other stuff too, true crime and stuff. And it was just neat that he asked. And then he said, "Wow." He goes, "What?" Told him the name, and he said, "What does that mean to walk through the gate? What does that mean?" And I said, "Well, honey, that's what we're trying to find out. We're all trying to get together to sort what we know and try to make sense of something, the craziest thing we've ever been involved in, and that's life and everyday stuff and the things that happen, it's head scratchers, and trying to make sense of it and trying to see if there's any way we can help each other through the gate a little easier, and anybody else that wants to learn along the way. And maybe we get through that gate, there'll be some other people that can teach us the things we don't know." So there we go. And definitely Sonny's going to be one of those. And I pray that he had many wonderful people to meet him and many wonderful guides do the same. Because if you're in this, you got a clue. You might be in it to say you're a skeptic, but for 10 skeptics that I've talked to, at least 8 of them went, there was this one time, So for Sonny, we're going to remember you, brother. And thanks for leaving your thoughts behind. We can go back over them and, see if we can catch something that we might have missed, a little bit of wisdom that you threw down. And now you're getting some of those answers. So we spirit you on, my friend. All right. Let's get down to some spooky stuff, some crazy things, some mysteries, and some try to unravel some of this crazy Hollywood scandals. There's so many of them. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about why is there 5 or 6. I was talking to Steve about this. I said, man, there's so many. And one after the other, whether it's Fatty Arbuckle or whatever. And you'll see in the comments, like the things that come up that stuck out. Like, say, if I mentioned Lizzie Borden, right away, you start thinking of the song, right? And some of us stop and say, 40 wax. Why would you add 40 wax to that, right? It rhymes. Now, it's just a kid's thing. And that song is almost a sample of how these stories go, because there's no way, it wasn't 40 wax. We know we're going to go over the whole thing again, but you know what I mean? As far as you can tell, but it's exaggerated. It's exaggerated for effect. It was exaggerated not only because it fit better, it sounded better, it looked better, it was easier to digest or remember. Well, then we're going to add it to a little ditty, and kids are going to jump rope to it. Sounds great, right? Like a lot of the nursery rhymes and stuff that are out there. We sing "Ring Around the Rosie" as a macabre, origin. If anybody doesn't know that, I believe that is, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. This light is so bright I can hardly see your chat. I believe that one was "Ring Around the Rosie." Was that smallpox? Was that just straight up plague? Ted, do you know? Glenn, do you know? So trying to look into all these stories, you can't do it quick. And the way I figured to do it, we've got these little snippets we can watch, and we can get a couple of people's different opinions on it. And we're lucky enough to have a film and documentaries from, like the 70s, early 80s, something like that, that we can actually look at snippets of it here on the inner tubes and talk about it. It's easy to say, go watch this movie and then come back and we'll talk about it. So many things happen in between that time, you really forget the effect. So when we're watching it together, that makes the most sense, right? But I also try to do it like the song. If you look at the song, how that's exaggerated and changed, and one little, maybe one or two little points and facts stick out, and that's what we remember. It gets carried along over the decades, right? And that's what I mean by that song being almost, the sample for these stories like that. Because Fatty Arbuckle, they remember, the things that stuck out, the accusations and things like that. And they forget that he went on trial 3 times for murder. Now, I never looked up when, the double jeopardy was put into effect. And I believe double jeopardy only stands for murder. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, too. Was it the play, Glenn? Thank you. How are you, sweetheart? And you too, Lee. Everybody in here. Now I can see our focus. See, I'm looking through the bottom. These glasses are crazy. But that's the thing. So they might forget that part. Or they'll remember that, James Dean had the crash, but we never knew he was we knew he was troubled, but we didn't know why. And, then you kind of look back at it, and you look at all the things that were uncovered, and, my heart just breaks for him because I don't want to see anybody suffer like that and go through that kind of pain. But you also have to peel it back, and, as people who have been in this and sorting through so many cases and so many things, whether paranormal or otherwise, that you have to dig deeper. Something was the cause of that. Something caused that. You see what I mean? I don't think somebody is born desiring that kind of pain. Something has to get broken. Something has to get, you know what I mean? Or detached. And then somebody finds a way to reattach it and move on with their lives. And that has different faces. Trauma causes things like this. So we can look at something like that and we can say, they never gave him a chance, the headlines back in the day, to get the help he might have needed if they had told the truth. Greedy people covered it up. Greedy people got what they wanted from him, just like all these people. We've talked about Judy Garland, what that girl went through. It's near impossible now to look at The Wizard of Oz or any of the things that she did and not see that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? A lot of people would like to stay in that, that kind of magical world, make believe. And that's fine. You have to understand sometimes a lot of pain causes that kind of thing. And how could we get this without causing this? What's wrong with that? That's my point. And it takes time to go through all of these. And again, once we do them, if anything adds on, if we come up with another fact, or hey, somebody else just wrote a book and they found a letter and this proves this, and we come back and we add it to it. And that's part of it. But I like to go over these and go through them as the story changed as well. Because if you look at it over the decades, you kind of see, okay, found this and it changes all of this. It's really absolutely horrifying what they did to some of these kids. Shirley Temple played a prostitute at the age of 4, not once but twice. Something called Baby's Burlesque, 1932-ish. We showed it last week. We talked about it. And that's not just her. It was every other kid in there. And it was, the Little Rascals too. We've all heard things with them. Gosh, they're their own episode. Alfalfa and Spanky and everybody. Darla, Pete. But like I said, it takes a little time to go through that. And then I also like to add this part to it, that then you start kind of watching other people, who to start trusting, who has integrity, who's going back and going, I'm not too sure about that, but here's the information. Or I said this last week and I caught myself, or somebody corrected me and showed me, gave you wrong information. Sorry. This is what the real deal is. Because again, if we're lying, you know what I mean? If we're lying, we're just basing things on lies. You're building a house on a foundation of sand. That makes any sense. And again, that works with the paranormal as well. For the life of me, I can't figure out why a lot of these people that put stuff out there is changing the facts, because most of the time the facts, what really happens is the craziest stuff. So we're never going to learn. We're never going to be able to figure out the next step or the next thing until we're honest about the stuff we already have. And that goes for Hollywood. Anytime propaganda is put up to try to sway your mind or your choice or your thoughts, to get you to buy something. I've said it 1,000 times. Psyop, psyop, psyop. Campbell soup label is a psyop. Anything that is put there to change your direction, choice, make you want something you didn't know you wanted, make you think you need something, that you never thought you needed, whatever. And it's done with different things. All the senses, color, sound, emotions, the gauntlet, right? That's what this is too. Every bit of it. The son of a gun who told, Jean Harlow? I have that right? So many, God bless them, there's so many platinum blondes back then. I think it was Harlow. Yes. She had to go and get an abortion? Do you know how many abortions? Judy Garland? And then she had Liza. She's on the... People, I'm telling you what, by the time you're done with this, if you look at one magazine cover and heave a sigh and think, boy, if I could just have their life. What are you, nuts? However crazy your life is right now, at least you are in control of who you know what I mean? Who you see, what you do. These people aren't happy. It's an illusion. It's a psyop. It's a Campbell soup label. Every single one of them. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine being to that point to say, I want that so bad. Thank you, sweetie. Aunt Edna. It was Jean Harlow. And how sad, right? And then she winds up dying. Her mom won't even get her any medical attention. She's up there in her glamorous apartment in misery, dying with no help. Just her mom refusing to get her any kind of medication or help or assistance in any way. I mean, these aren't glamorous lives, people. In my opinion. In my opinion. And the amount of cover-up, the amount of lawlessness, the amount of lies, corruption, layer upon layer upon layer of corruption and lies, and people who that wouldn't get in line and stand in line and do what they were told, and wanted to go to the judge or the police or whatever, they were the next one. Or they framed you like that one director where they had the one girl, they wanted to get rid of her, so they threw her in, I said some low down, threw her monogrammed panties, the words what that was used, her drawers in there. I framed her. Three birds. And then the whole reason he got shot in the first place was some crazy stage mom who couldn't stand losing control over her daughter. Control, greed, power, money, corruption, lies. Amazing. Amazing. And if they can pull it off with Rock Hudson, even though it started to get out there at the end, and again, how many people would have been upset that the guy was just happy? Oh, you're going to break everybody's heart because they, you know what? You would have gained a bunch of dudes. I mean, am I right? And what dude that is didn't know? Just saying. They're trying to control everything. Your emotions, what you buy, the tickets you buy, the magazines you buy, the t-shirts you buy. Is it all a psyop? Was it all controlled? I think a lot of it was. I think a lot of buttons were pushed. And Steve and I talk about it a lot. We talked about with Laurel Canyon. We talked about it with the music industry. And it's still happening. If you don't know what's been going on in the music industry in the past 3 weeks, you're not paying attention. It's all coming out. And it's all coming out from the past as well. And so many things were hidden. Who knew? I told Steve said, what's the most amazing thing you found out? And I said, gosh, it's hard. He said, digging into these things. And I said, I think one of the funniest ones was that I didn't realize that like a quarter of Hollywood had a custom made autographed dildo from Rudolph Valentino. If that's true, if it's even partially true. Not that I care. It's just to the level that things like Flynn's little excursions and the things he did and got away with. There was 3 girls in court at the same time accusing that man. You know, I don't care how good looking you are. You know what I mean? Or how well you swing on a rope as a swashbuckler or whatever. I can enjoy your acting until I find out and then I can't, it's ruined. So do one or the other. No, don't try not to be an ass, but it's amazing. And I guess the best way to combat that is to just go in and assume that most of them are going to succumb to these things. The corruption, the power. Like I said earlier, what makes somebody go in and go, you know what? All right, I'm willing to sell my soul to do this. Or I'm willing to let that person take advantage of me so I can have that. It's a good question. No, thank you. How about y'all? How about you, Renice? Hey, Aunt Edna, how you doing? D-Rock, good to see you. Lindsay, I missed you, honey. I'm so glad to see you. I'm sorry you're getting all that snow, babe. I know. It's been nuts. I'm hearing all kinds of things. One part of our country's on fire and the other half's under 12 feet of snow. All in places it shouldn't be happening. I think they're just spinning the wheel and whoever's in charge of the universe, whatever, and just throwing darts at things and they're laughing as they're coming up with all kind of combinations. I think stuff's fixing to get really crazy. How about you? Hey, Vixen Doe. Hi, sweetheart. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. D-Rock, it's good to see you, hon. Derek, is that you? You came in at the right time. You know, apparently, again, teach own. Your mileage may vary. But what that said to me is it wasn't a surprise that was going on. The surprise was that they were able to hide that so well, to control the narrative for the newspapers and even the sleazy magazines in the background, you know. Hey, Jack, good to see you, honey. Good to see you. That's what blows my mind. Because again, I've been around these people for decades as far as, you know, people talking about JFK conspiracies or war conspiracies and things over here, back and forth. I'm very used to being in rooms full of people that are all on the same page, but they can't They can't give up that one thing, or they can't understand that those two things can be true and don't cancel out each other. They're not mutually exclusive. Yes, you can have a conspiracy that big and keep it quiet. Yes, you can hand out dildos to half of Hollywood with your initials on it, and somehow it's kept quiet, relatively quiet, for decades. Decades. That's my point. Does that make sense? So don't ever let anybody tell you, oh, nobody could keep a secret like that. That many people just couldn't keep their mouths shut. Really? I beg to differ. How about you? Joanne, look at you, Yoda girl. How you doing, honey? Good to see ya. And I'll be back. Yeah, no penicillin back there. But there was stuff. You and I, honey, you and I could have gone in there and probably helped that girl with minimum things. I mean, God, just get her to a hospital. I mean, nobody should have suffered without, and I've heard lots of stories like that. And I'm not disparaging anybody's religion or belief, but I bet you there was a moment in time where if you had asked that young lady if she would like some assistance, she may have said, yes, please. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, she did, babe. She denied treatment. Yeah. Wouldn't let anybody in, we've heard some horrible stuff, unnecessary things, but her life, and I'm no expert on her life, but just what I've dug up here in the past 3 weeks. And again, most of this, I'm kind of sitting here thinking, and I'm not really losing my train of thought. I'm trying to dig down because I did a lot of the studying onto this a couple of weeks ago to have it ready for now so I could start researching what I'm researching now. So at the same time, we're searching for you guys in the future, something very exciting. And it takes a lot of got to read a couple books, and I got to really dig, and I got to cross reference things, and it's fun. I dig it. Don't get me wrong. It's just, it takes a lot. And once I'm on that, I'm on that, so I'm kind of looking back at these things. So that's what I'm stumbling around to try to remember if it was Harlow or, or, Gene Tierney or, this one or that. There's so many. But I think that's, talking about these things and being surprised at some of the details that come out, I think it was, Glenn, Christian Science. It's something like that. I don't want to say because I'm not 100% sure, but it was definitely in that. I mean, I don't think it was holiness or anything like that. I think it was, I think you're correct. But I remember him calling it something else, and I may be getting thrown off on the name of the actual church. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's a great possibility, but I'm not 100% sure. But something else, Glenn and I at different times, he's thrown me some comments out. And here's another good example. We talked a little bit about Lizzie. Let's bring this up. There's some great people that I really respect, a lot of their research and the things that they're in and, where they come from and all that. And some JFK knowledge. It's just off the chain. A lot of it I'd heard, and I can add to that. But there are people who will, I'm here. All of this right here, irrelevant. And I can respect that to a certain degree. Mark Shaw's like that in some ways. But, and so many others. And Jim Mars was too, but he'd think, and then he'd go. But here's the thing. I was thrilled. They did and it's unsolved, wait a minute, Untold American History. Is that correct, Glenn? Do I have that right? It's just wonderful. I highly recommend it. It's a great, great podcast. And they were looking into Lizzie Borden. I went, okay, I can't wait to see this. I want to see where we're going because I want to see what trail he takes because Did he dig up the same type of facts, same facts that I did? Did he get extras? Did he have, what was his theories? What was his thoughts? He had an interesting theory about the stove and some irons and stuff like that. And it's just good as any, as far as that goes. But I wanted to see where he was going with how did he feel about it? Here's all the facts. She did this. She was able to pay off a couple of people here, maybe. We don't have any evidence of that, but she had the means. So we can assume it was possible, that kind of thing. There's a lot of that, back and forth. And I was interested, Glenn, and I don't know how America's Untold Stories. Thank you, sweetheart. And I was interested to see what you think. Now, I don't recall him ever mentioning the half brother, or did he possibly, because I watched it twice and I didn't catch it, but did he mention, Glenn, about the Lizzie's half brother or the axe murder that happened actually about 6 houses down 11 days after the murder while she was in jail? Did he mention that? Because I would imagine he would, I don't put words in his mouth, but personality wise, I would imagine he would probably say that guy was caught and they found a coin, unless he was a patsy, unless he was set up. This has nothing to do with that. And he wouldn't mention it, or he would just briefly mention it. Do you remember or recall? Because he didn't think, if I have this correct, Mark thought that she was there. She might have done one or the other. She didn't do both, or she didn't do any, and somebody else did it, but she knew what happened. And that's basically what I said. But I don't recall him bringing up what happened after the fact with the half-brother found hanging from the tree, and John showing up on that day and being seen there that day, and then leaving and never being seen again. So I do believe that he was involved. I do believe that somebody else was involved. And I think it's reasonable doubt that she did it at all. He mentioned the other killer, a Portuguese who had just arrived in the country. Yep. And now, at the same time, Glenn, did he mention, do you recall? And I'm not holding you to this. I just don't want to go back and watch it a third time because I've got so much research to do. And it's not that it's not worth it. It is. But, did he mention the fact that it would be so easy to just accuse this guy, because they did that all the time? Anything that went on in the town, the Portuguese in that town at the time were the Irish in Brooklyn in, around the Civil War, or any other time, or any group that was being treated like that, Chinese in San Francisco, or, building the train. They all blamed him. Steve and I did a show, and we were talking about, I believe it was the New Orleans axe murderer, with the song, with he liked jazz, remember? And if you play a song on Tuesday night, I'll pass that house so everybody's playing jazz. Don't hurt me, Papa. Remember all that? I think that Steve and I were talking about how in that town, in New Orleans at that time, there were immigrants there that got blamed for everything. I remember when I was doing Chicago, Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, I was reading, the whole Chicago fire or Miss O'Leary's Cow, which again didn't happen. It was a group of partying guys in the back that were smoking tobacco and throwing cigar butts and knocking out pipes and stuff like that in the hay. It's a barn with animals. And they were up late playing fiddle music and stuff. And Mrs. O'Leary said it was keeping her up, and her husband was getting mad. All these people were getting mad and complaining about it, and thought that he might have did it as a payback kind of thing. They complain about our party, we'll set your barn on fire, or take that, or whatever, that kind of thing. And she was literally, she was hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray. I mean, they tried to frame her. Immigrant. You know what I mean? It was the downtrodden. It was the ones that were poor, the ones that were in the tenements. They got blamed for everything. And that's what that Portuguese guy was. We had the coin on his coin on him. And I always thought that it was a possibility that whoever did the Lizzie Borden possibly might have done that one too, to kind of throw everybody off while she was in jail, feeling bad about how things got left. Just a thought, just a theory. Because they'd grab somebody off a hobo or something like that and put something on them, and look, how many stories have we done like that? How many? Same thing, just did it at Cleveland torso murders. That guy, he goes in the room, he's perfectly fine, comes out with a black eye and 3 broke ribs. And then they hung him. We've heard that before. Right? How you doing, Jack? You been good? Good to see you. Now, hang on one second. Let me see if Glenn said anything. Yeah, I was kind of, I don't know yet about the half brother because I keep falling asleep when I see parts of the show. I totally feel you. And it's just because it's a good long, it's a good long show. I mean, it's really good. I highly recommend it. Talking about, yep. Let's see what this one says. Talking about America's Untold Stories, Glenn Dennison, I found a book of maps of the First Nation trails across. Ooh, interesting. Very nice. Let's see. Cisco, I have learned how to create a small portal with sound frequency, and I got the hertz down. And honey, as long as you learned how to close it too, I'm happy about that. If you open it, gotta close it. Be careful what you let in. They're not all fun. They're not all Casper the Friendly Ghosts and all that other stuff. So definitely put your protection down and all that kind of stuff. Be careful. James, welcome. All right. Uncommon Belief. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Yeah, I do too. Uncommon. Yep. Now she's got the maps. That's very cool. You've been good. I am, honey. I'm doing good. I'm deep in research, and tell you what's coming. A couple good surprises. We got something fun going on for St. Patrick. Everybody hates that, Irish people, when you say St. Pat's, but I shorten everything. St. Patrick's Day, and got something fun coming for that. Found something today. I'll tell you, when I find something for you guys, like one of those mysteries or a radio mystery or a Lux mystery or something, and I know it fits with something, or I always like get giddy about it because I'm like, oh my God, they're going to love this. It's great. But I found one today and it made me really smile. That's going to be perfect for around St. Patrick's Day. I don't really, I'm not Irish, but I respect it. I love cultures. I love people who are proud of their cultures and they keep the culture or some part of the tradition alive. And just like these stories, it probably changes. You add your own flavor to it or whatever, but there's traditions. I think that's so important. I think keeping those things alive are so important. Teaching your kids about them, and the parents of the child, the guardians of the kid, both sides. You're both of these things. This is, like food from passed down, all of it. I just love that. I think that you can add your own traditions to it and let them pass it on too, but it's so important. I've always tried to keep that culture and learn about it and been surprised along the way, but I think it's so important. And I think all those different flavors and spices is what makes it just right. And then, some gets a little too spicy. That's what we see with some of them. But anyway, Scott, how you doing, honey? They threw your link up here, and I hear you got a new video. I did not get to see it yet, but I look forward to it. Yeah, I know you have, honey. It's good to have you here. It's really good to have you here. I go on the other side. Stay there. Yeah. True. Well, it's just it. I think there's more. It's all about levels and it's all about frequency and what you connect into too. I was just talking to somebody today, and I said we were watching. I think it was Paranormal or Celebrity Ghost Stories or something was on. And I walked by and I said to Mario, he was telling me, "Hey, that was Sammy Hagar." And I'm like, yeah, he's got a good story, you know. And somebody else came up and something happened to her where I don't know the whole story, and I'm not familiar with the actor, singer or the actress either, so I can't really even tell you who it was. But I watched her as I walked by. She's sitting on a bed, and all of a sudden, the doors start slamming, and the laptop flew and broke the laptop, and something else happened. She goes, "I was so scared, and I ran out." And I was trying to explain to him. I said, "It's not just the place; it's like what's going on with that person too, you know." And it's like looking at a story like that and going, what was going on with her life? What was going on, you know, because if she didn't have any effect there, what changed? Somebody brings something in, somebody else in the house, the energy change. And that's what happens when you get to this. You see how big the picture is, how big the picture are with these stars in old Hollywood. And I think it's amazing because you know what's going on now. It's just plain out debauchery now. It's just so ridiculous. So ridiculous. We got to stop making stupid people famous. That's my opinion from Cisco straight on up that nobody else's. That's mine. If you agree, great. If you don't, that's fine too. That's what it's all about. But good God. You know, at least some of these people had common decency to look the part, you know, and try to carry themselves and cover up all their BS, right? I don't know. Putting you crazy right out on the front porch. Maybe that's just what they're doing. Maybe they're just trying to see how low down dirty they can get. Because telling you what, we've come a long way from the Waltons, ain't we? A pendulum is when it swings, it gets this high. What are we going back to? God, I hope we don't go back to those crazy bathing suits, you know, that they used to wear in like the 20s where we just cover everything. Now everybody's just covered head to toe. Nobody looks at each other. I don't know. Humanity's crazy. We've done some crazy things, right? All right. So I told you I was going to jabber on. There's that. We got good things coming in the future. The next one that I'm really researching on, I got to read all the books and do all the digging. Man, I found some cool stuff to show y'all too. I'm excited about it. But I'll give you a hint. Um, mm, how can I say this without giving it away? Definitely. That was interesting. Definitely. It's a gangster. Yep. And it's the era that they were absolutely at their peak, the Depression era gangsters. So you got everything from Al Capone to Dillinger, to Pretty Boy Floyd, Machine Gun Kelly, you know, so many of them, right? We go on naming them. No, I'm not going to spill it. I'm not going to spill it. I'm not going to spill it because it's just so interesting. And I'm digging, digging, digging. And again, here comes the cover up. Here comes the BS. Just, you know, so much of it in this one. And it's really taken a while to try to unravel it. So I want to present it right. I told Steve about it, and he's like, yeah. Okay, we're going to do it. So I have to, you know, get to that point. Probably next weekend, the weekend after that, we can probably start unraveling that one. But it's going to be pretty deep, couple episodes. And I think you're going to like it. So that being said, Steve will be here tomorrow night, and he's just going great with his channel. I think I talked long enough to have Lynn and everybody over because I didn't want to step on her. But and you guys, like again, I don't know if you went back and saw. And Edna, did you go back and watch the Hollywood Babylon? If you did, it's a heck of a ride, isn't it? But and that was what was his name? Kenneth Anger. Anger. And some said he never said a true word in his life. Well, that is possibly true. But some of the things he said, you know, back up from other sources, you know, and that's so hard, especially back then, is who said what first? You know, where did it come out? Did it come out in a newspaper, a magazine? Did some reporter make it up? Did a producer put it out to skew, you know, whatever, to get you to look over here or there? It's absolutely nuts. It's hard. It's hard to, to decipher that, even in like any of these cases, because a reporter will make it up and then everybody will just base off of that. Well, it was tainted information, poison, fruit from the poison tree. Anger. Thank you, sweetheart. Kenneth Anger. Yeah, that's true, Glenn. His wife was more gangster than him. Yeah. Isn't it funny how the name survives, though? Because it's such a good name. A lot of these guys, that's all they had, you know? Yep, a couple of things were just gossip. Yep, let me see. Yep, yep, that went flying. That's true. It's a good point, Edna. That's true. But, and again, the lies just build and build and build. And tonight I uncovered a couple things that, really sad. And I think one of those is mostly Sharron Tate. I think she and another, it's a little bit, out of that era, but your 30 years separation from, your Clark Gables and all that, when they were starting out, and some of these people were talking about, and we started way back, but very sad, very caught up, very manipulated, and not not stupid. Just know very much a Marilyn Monroe feel there. I don't know how much you know about Sharron Tate. I'll show you a little tonight, but and I, again, until I research, I don't really know. I know what what we've read, what we've seen in the magazines and the headlines and the stuff that's been regurgitated over the years, But that case, there's more to that case, I'm telling you. And I've been talking to Steve about that. So Steve, we're digging. I'm digging. He's doing his I got to do the digging on this stuff. I just tell him this is what we might be talking about in the future because I'm digging on it, But there's an author I'm after. If I can get him on the show, I'd be delighted to. And that's really going to flip that whole helter skelter thing. The whole Vincent Bugliosi and all that. Like, there's so much more, but in the heart of it are these victims absolutely massacred. And Sharron Tate was one of them. And it was just by mere chance that she was back and she was there for that and everything else. So I won't dig too much on the why and how there, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about her tonight and a couple other ones that I really was kind of surprised on. So I'm going to throw this up and we get started, but I wanted to make sure I said hi to everybody that's here and love y'all. And I'm so glad you're here. And tell you what, I look forward to this every week. It's been a rough week. And I hope y'all didn't have a bad one, but we're here tonight. We're starting a new one. And this is the first hour of the rest of our week coming up. So I think I did. If I missed you, I apologize, and I hope to catch you along the way because I really do appreciate y'all being here, and I really look forward to looking into this stuff and getting excited about showing, oh my gosh, Aunt Edna's going to love this, or Ted's going to get a giggle out of this, or, Renice is going to love it, or Lulu, and all the names, roll through. And there's been, over the years, I've had call-ins and emails that I've been in contact with people, but that's one of the reasons I gave all that networking and radio stuff up, because unless you can talk to people right then, you're not getting the playoff of, hey, I didn't think about looking at it that way, or, that one got to me, or did you notice this? And you get it after the fact, especially if you're on, and I was on iTunes and all that, just going back and trying to catch all of the comments so you can engage with people. That's why I flipped to this, so we could do what we're doing right now. And I still remember names from then, and I still hear from people, or they read the book and, we get in contact that way through social media or whatever, or LinkedIn. And that's all great. But having it live like this is the best. Because we get that energy going and we all feel better when we, leave than we came in. And I always look forward to it. And getting to find stuff, put it together for you guys is like the number one thing. And gets me excited. Even, like I said, like the little mysteries and stuff. I was so excited about the Ghost in the Well. If you have not heard that story, please go back. It's in the episodes. Go back and look. It's called The Ghost in the Well, and it is under the radio and mystery playlist. And go in there and catch it, because that was a fun story based on the true tale of Juliama. Oh, what's her last? Let's just say Alma. And a real live ghost in a wishing well. And it absolutely blew my mind. And that connection to that song, I can remember being 5, 6 years old and hearing that on the radio and seeing my sister, and she was getting my nephew, her, he was about like 3, 4 months old. Gosh, he's a grown man now, And looking back to that and listening to the words and hearing that about the ghost in the wishing well, and just instantly connecting to that song and thinking about how sad that was. And then I found the one with Abbott and Costello and their ghosts in a wishing well, and that was at a young age too. But that connection in that, and that haunting melody, it just stuck with me my whole life. And to find that mystery and to be able to put it all together, and to think about, seeing if somebody can get over there and help her if she's still there. Hoping it's not residual. I mean, I'm hoping it's residual and not, that she's stuck or something. But that well is in the middle of a clothing store. How crazy is this, right? So anyway, makes me excited to find the stuff for you. I hope you enjoy them. I'm putting them in the middle of the week as I can, because I'm also trying to get more of the analytics. I'm trying to jumpstart some of the analytics with YouTube too. And it helps, you get more view time, and people might be able to relax and listen to while they're, driving or whatever else. And it helps. And I appreciate those who show up for the live, because we have an absolute blast, don't we, guys? All right. Now this first one, should I jump to? Yeah, let's go ahead. This first one, I didn't know much about. I don't know if you do. Please call out if you know anything different than this. But again, this one's going back. So 3, 4 decades, maybe 3. And I don't know of any new information on this first guy. And this one is, I think it's Tyrone Power. Is Tyrone Power? It may be. Let's see. Let's be surprised together. Let's see. Myrna Loy. I think it is. His eyebrows. Gosh. Jammy jams on the piano, ladies and gentlemen. Shine on, Silver Moon. Tyrone Power.
Tyrone Power followed in the footsteps of his actor father, Tyrone Power Sr. He began acting at the age of 7. Tom Brown of Culver, made in 1932, was his first major film as an adult. Later, he starred in the 1936 film Lloyds of London, along with Madeleine Carroll and George Sanders. In 1937, he appeared in Alexander's Ragtime Band, and then the big-budget costume drama Marie Antoinette, firmly establishing himself as one of the country's leading matinee idols. In 1938, he met his first wife, Annabella, when she co-starred with him in the movie Suez. They were married in 1939. His dashing good looks made him perfect for a series of swashbuckling roles, his most famous coming in the 1939 classic The Mark of Zorro. In the film, Power actually plays two roles, that of the prissy Don Diego and his alter ego, the dynamic Zorro.
Zorro, a name that struck terror into the hearts of traitors and tyrants, but brought new life and hope to the downtrodden. His amazing riding prowess and incredible feats of valor with flashing sword became legend as he fearlessly fought for justice. This romantic adventure stars Tyrone Power in one of the greatest roles of his career, The Mark of Zorro.
I never dreamed dancing could be so wonderful.
What is this? It's some of the alcalde's gold. Oh, and this I took from his charming wife. It's pretty, don't you think? You took it. Have you seen this one, Padre?
Zorro. Love and honor and chivalry live again in this stirring picturization of a glorious era.
Playing the foppish Don Diego may have been easier for Power than we think. It was later alleged that around 1939, Power became involved with the leading swashbuckling film hero of the day, Earl Flynn. In fact, it was said that they had a torrid homosexual affair.
Well, well.
Blood and sand.
In 1940, Tyrone Power followed in the footsteps of another screen idol, Rudolph Valentino, when he starred in the remake of Blood and Sand.
Tyrone Power as Juan Gallardo, Spain's greatest matador, adored by women, envied by men, and idolized by a nation.
But it matters to me.
Come on, Neil, why don't you throw it away and forget all about it?
No, no. I'm going to save this. And someday I'll make that Kuro eat his words. Someday I'll come back to you with a whole trunk full of clippings. And when you marry me, you marry the first torero in Spain.
The screen captures the stunning spectacle of men who face death in the arena and the fiery romance of an immortal novel that becomes a never-to-be-forgotten motion picture triumph.
Keeping his secret life out of the public eye, Power enlisted in the Marines in August 1942 as a private and worked his way through the ranks. Here he is drilling Marines in San Diego. The studios kept Power's image alive by reissuing his films during the war. Even after the war, he continued to contribute his talents to worthy causes.
I've been asked to speak to you briefly on behalf of the American Red Cross. I welcome the opportunity to be of help to an organization which so greatly helped all service personnel during the war. I don't think I need remind you of the wonderful record of the American Red Cross, nor the fact that it was your generous contributions which made this record possible. I'm sure all of us realize that though the shooting...
This lip sync is often, or am I like, is it the funny honey? Are you seeing that too? I hope it doesn't stay like that. This isn't me. This is some, this is...
over, the work of the American Red Cross must be carried on. It still needs and deserves every dollar that you can spare for this work. Around the world, wherever there's suffering or hardship, the Red Cross is a symbol of hope.
Still married to Annabella, the Powers were celebrated Hollywood party givers. On May 20th, 1946, they hosted an affair to welcome home David Niven and his new wife. Tragedy struck when during a reported unusual party game, Niven's wife tumbled down a flight of stairs, struck her head on the cement floor, and died. Power's wife, Annabella, took the event very badly, and it was soon after this trauma that she decided to leave Power to portray a lesbian in the Broadway play No Exit. Meanwhile, Power starred in the compelling drama The Razor's Edge. This high-grossing film received 4 Oscar nominations. Power followed in 1947 with Nightmare Alley, a seamy tale of carnival life. It was a complete change of pace for Power, Instead of the leading man, he played an unsympathetic roustabout turned mentalist. Many critics believe it was Power's finest effort. Although the film did not do well when it was first released, it has gained substantial following over the years.
I'm going to be strictly on the level about this whole thing myself.
Will you get out of here? I should have known you were that kind of...
It takes one to catch one. Listen to me. I'm no good.
This is
I
gonna
never
make me
pretended
nuts.
to be. But I love you. I'm a hustler. I've always been one. But I love you. I may be the thief of the world, but with you, I've always been on the level.
In 1948, Power married Linda Christian after agreeing to pay Annabella an $85,000 per year divorce settlement. The new marriage lasted until 1955, with Linda getting $1 million settlement. In 1957, Power starred in what was officially his last film, Witness for the Prosecution. It was nominated as Best Picture of the Year. In 1958, Power married for the third time to 26-year-old Deborah Ann Menardos. They honeymooned on a ship bound for Spain, where Power's new film, Solomon and Sheba, is ready to shoot. During a strenuous dueling scene opposite George Sanders, Power suffered a heart attack, collapsed, and died on the set.
Oh,
He was
geez.
only 44 years old. Looking much older than his age, his 3 marriages, high living, and secret affairs had taken their toll.
Kind of like the Crow.
Ironically, his father, Tyrone Power Sr.,
Nothing like the Crow.
died
but-
the very same way, on a movie set in 1931.
Whoa.
In an effort to save the film, the studio flew in Yul Brynner to replace the fallen Power.
Because that's your first go-to, right? Yul Brynner.
While Power's wife, pregnant with the son he would never see, prepared for the funeral home cosmetician and Power's personal makeup man argued over who would put the last touch of pink to Power's cheeks. Like Valentino before him, adoring fans gathered in great number to say farewell to their idol. His tomb was inscribed with Hamlet's "Good night, sweet prince, and a flight of angels sing thee to thy rest."
Hey, Jim. How you doing, honey? Welcome in. Welcome in. Okay, so I had no idea about any of that with Tyrone Power. I had never heard. Some of these just absolutely surprised me. Some of them I dug into, and some of them I just let roll as is because, you can't deep dive into each one. But I didn't know very much about Tyrone Power. I hadn't heard the stuff. Now, I don't know about the affair with what's his name, but you know what? Again, everything we said in the beginning. They were very good at covering stuff up, and a lot of people kept secrets. Now, you can have hairdressers in there, makeup artists, designers, set people, cast. I mean, everybody was able to keep secrets. The whispers and this and that, but it's amazing. And, a lot of them, I think these like magazines or whatever, they would go around and they would ask people like that. But then, if you talked, you weren't going to get the job anymore because it got out that you were a blabbermouth, and you certainly didn't work for the studios. The studios kept everything tight. We talked about last week, and I think on both nights, we talked about the studios, how they had all control. It was like their own private little countries in there, and they all treated their stars different. This set over, like everybody, what was it? We had Charlie Chaplin set. Of course, those were combined and wound up becoming Universal, I believe. And then all the other different ones. But like say MGM, they had a real tight hold on their stars and who you were seen with. And, if you wound up getting murdered, they would show up for the police. We saw it all the way up to Maryland and probably still do, think about it. Right? It's crazy. But I didn't know that much about him. And that's amazing. That was his dad that died like that. Who died? Who did he say died just the same way? Was it his father? Is that what the guy said? That's nuts. And it's not exactly like, The Crow, but here's the thing. They cared so much about the stars and they put so much into the movie, and then something like this happens and they're going to, well, we got to find a way to finish the movie. They put in Yul Brynner. In The Crow, they tried to use like CGI kind of, it was very young then, but they have all these weird scenes of Brandon Lee coming in like through the rain and stuff to, in his crow makeup to try to fill in. It was so sad. It was such a sad comic book, graphic novel, excuse me. And then they made the movie, and then that happened to him. And if y'all don't know what happened to him, it was a whole issue there with the prop guns and everything. And somebody was shooting on, I believe it was either somebody was shooting with that gun live ammo and then put blanks behind it, and it was a piece and enough to lodge that piece out. Behind it was enough gunpowder in the blank or whatever. There's two different kind of blanks you can use. I'm not sure what kind they were using, but that was enough because he was actually pretending to play like Russian roulette and held the gun to his own head. Imagine, And again, was that an accident? There's all that talk about the curse stuff and all that kind of, who knows? But something recently happened too with Alec Baldwin and prop issues there and people doing things they weren't supposed to be doing or plinking and plunking and all that kind of mess. And before you know it, you're going to get your ammo mixed up. Somebody's going to get shot. So responsibility. Do your job well. Be thorough. Lives are at stake. Don't be a dumbass. All right, so Alan Ladd. Now, I know nothing about this one and purposely didn't watch a couple of these. Like, I made sure that they were good. I don't know what's going on with the lips, but hopefully it doesn't last too long because I put a couple of these different ones together. I think it's just on some of these older ones, but most of them are replays on the films anyway, which is in the narration, so we could probably get through it. But it makes me crazy because I'm a lip reader. So it's not matching up his skill. It's making me nuts. But Alan Ladd, I don't know that much about. Let's see.
Alan Ladd was born in Hot Springs, Arkansas. The family never had much money, and his father died when he was 4. As a young boy, Ladd was small for his age. The family moved to California, where Ladd flourished in the fresh air. He began to develop quickly and became a high school athlete. But he never grew past 5 feet 5 inches. Blond and handsome, he studied acting, and he worked as a grip on the Warner's lot. He soon eloped and had a brief marriage, which produced a son, Alan Ladd Jr. Early in 1939, Ladd signed with an agent, Sue Carroll, an older woman who Ladd would later marry. She provided the push he needed, and soon Ladd was getting better parts in movies, such as The Black Cat.
What's all this about somebody trying to kill Abigail? Where did you find out about that?
I gave that to Mother tonight.
Isn't it Sherlock?
She was going to give it back to Abigail in the morning.
Oh, then you're the guy that slugged me.
Yeah, and I'll do it again anytime you train down to my weight.
There you go.
In his next film, Paper Bullets, Ladd was given 6th billing. But the studio, taking advantage of Ladd's fast-rising success, later renamed the picture Gangs, Inc. and gave Alan Ladd the star billing.
Tell you what, darling. Suppose we have dinner here tonight and then we can go places, huh?
I'd love that, Bill, but I'm so worried about you.
Oh, what's the matter now?
Why don't you give up racketeering and get a regular job? I'd like you a lot more.
I see.
100%.
Oh, darling, I'm only trying to get a few dollars ahead so we can get married.
Oh, I know, Bill, but what you're doing is all wrong. I can't write home and say that I'm in love with the grandest guy in the world, but he's an underworld character.
Yeah, I know. But I'll be out of it in a couple of months. I promise you.
Ladd's big break came in 1942 in the film This Gun for Hire. The boyish, good-looking Ladd is cast against type. He plays the role of Raven, a tough guy hired killer, complete with trench coat and fedora, which became his trademark. But his height is still a problem. The studio tries to hide his small stature by scaling down sets and hiring petite leading ladies to play opposite Ladd.
Or G.
While other tough guy stars of the day didn't seem to be as sensitive about their height, it is a constant worry for Ladd. However, he appears on more magazine covers than any other male star of the time. But the carefully constructed macho image suffers a setback when in 1943, Ladd is drafted into the Air Force and released 10 months later on a medical discharge for an ulcer and double hernia. Notwithstanding his military accomplishments, the tough guy roles continue, with Ladd cast as an adventurer, swashbuckler, and an assortment of gangsters and detectives.
All my life I wanted to be a hard-boiled detective like Humphrey Bogart or Dick Powell or even Alan Ladd. You know, and have those beautiful women coming into the office and those warm fires on those rainy nights. That's the kind of life I want. How about it, Sam? Can I go to work for you? Just give me a simple yes or no.
No. Off again.
Oh, but that's too simple. Why don't you give it a little thought? I could go with you. I've got a coat just like that.
I have one
too.
too.
Quite a bit in case you're running any keyhole work or... You're sure there's nothing I can do for you?
Yeah, you
Great
keep your
hat.
nose clean.
In 1953, Ladd reached the zenith of his career, playing the mysterious loner in the critically acclaimed Western, Shane.
You call me Shane.
Shane, who attracted the woman with his quiet strength, who fascinated the boy with the glint of his gun.
We'd all be much better off if there wasn't a single gun left in this valley.
A gun is as good or bad as a...
Hold, pull the podcast over. Sarah, what are you doing in the shower outside doing what? Neighbors to see the bathroom. Okay, I'm moving on. Carry on. Be careful.
man using it. I've heard about you.
What have you heard, She?
I've heard that you're a low-down Yankee liar.
The coming attractions proclaimed, there never was a man like Shane. There never was a motion picture like Shane. Unfortunately for Ladd, it was true. His best roles were behind him.
He did have a nice behind.
Believe me, Mr. Stokes, this has never been a joke.
I don't think he's short at all.
Hugo.
Like, that was the sissy move.
Ladd's film career was taking a downhill spiral. In desperation, he turned to television in an attempt to revitalize his failing stardom.
Better give him another sedative. I'm afraid Mr. Stokes has homicidal tendencies.
After a
What's the
decade
chorus
of minor
name?
TV roles and mediocre movies, Ladd nearly killed himself. The incident occurred in 1963. According to Ladd, he was investigating evidence of a prowler at his home when he shot himself. The official report called it an accidental self-inflicted gunshot wound, although it was noted at the time with skepticism how a man who had handled so many guns in so many movies could do such a thing as to shoot himself. The following year, Ladd appeared in the film version of the novel The Carpetbaggers. He played the role of Nevada Smith. He gets good reviews for his work, but it's not a happy time for Ladd. It's the first time he has played a supporting role since This Gun for Hire in 1942. He did not live to see The Carpetbaggers released. He died on January 28, 1964 at the age of 50. It was reported his death came from an overdose of sedatives mixed with alcohol, possibly intentional. Some trade papers glossed over the cause of death, calling it gastritis.
Okay, here we go. Sharron. Now, that's incredible with Ladd. I didn't know all that. And I didn't even know it was short. You know, I don't know why people... Because you're going to go out in public. I mean, what are you going to do? I'd rather you just be who you are. Don't go out there in those platform shoes. It's ridiculous, you know. I had a brother who was real short and used to wear the platform shoes. He was so glad in the 70s because he had bell bottoms and platforms. But, you know, to be who you be. That's my opinion. Be who you are, you know. But that was a sissy push. It's like they couldn't give a good punch. But yeah, Sharron, boy, that's a sad one. So, Alan Ladd, you surprised about that one? There didn't seem to be a lot of scandal. The only thing I could say there was probably when he got shot. I can tell you this, that if he was really good, I mean, accidents can happen, but if there was a woman with him, she probably did it and they covered it up. That's all I can think of. It's like maybe somebody got pissed and gave him a little pop, It's a quick kneecapping amongst friends. Little bird shot in the calf. Just saying. It happens. I mean, it happens, seems to happen to a lot of famous politicians too. I mean, you just like completely birdshot half of somebody's face and get away with it. These people get away with so much crap. I don't, and like Anna said, they're just human beings, right? Nobody special. A lot of these people don't even really have certain talent. Now, here, but think about the vast amount of Hollywood and the music industry and everything like that. I mean, gosh, I can look at people on YouTube that have more talent, more raw talent, not auto-tune and electric this and money to back it and the flashy flash and all that mess, and just people, with talent. And it was a lot of people back in the day that came up. They came out of vaudeville. They came out of, theater, Shakespeare and, serious thespian kind of plays and, serious actors. And it seemed like a lot of them had a little bit more foundation to move through and last. You picking up what I'm putting down? Last through the muck and the mire. You didn't hear anything about Ethel Merman. She came out, she kicked ass, and she moved on. You didn't hear a lot of scandal about it. It was all these Joan Crawfords and, the reveal book after the fact. People who tried to put on a false face, when that false face started to fall apart, that's when they seemed to get into trouble. People that came out with just, here I am, and this is what I got to give, and I'm going to try, my hand at acting or, whatever art I'm into. And if you come out real, then they don't have a whole lot to, I think we portrayed that the best, I think, with Robert Mitchum last week. Lean into a torpedo. I did it. It's mine. What do you got? Are you going to find me? You'll put me in jail? Okay. Makes friends with everybody in there, does his stuff, doesn't even, like, he's not even mean to the reporters and the newspaper people and magazine people that come to take pictures of him doing menial labor, like sweeping the floor. He goes, I'm just as good as these guys. That's real. Not saying he was never involved in anything. I never heard anything. May or may not have been. He's not, accused and let's put it another way. He's not been held up for a crime like forcing himself on a 13-year-old, like her husband. Fled the country to get away from the accusations and the trial. And they let him get away with it. And they let him get back in here and then lifted him up and called him a wonderful director. Are you kidding me? I mean, Roman Polanski, he's still alive. But we know what you did. And a lot of this stuff is coming out. And, you look at her and you hear these things. I don't know how much you know about her. You got Valley of the Dolls, and you've got a couple other bit parts and a couple of that vampire movie. They'll talk about it. But the stuff that went on with him and her, I mean, it was about 10 years ago. A couple of tell-all books came out, and then you got to sort through the BS, and then you got to bring in the whole fact of this whole Charles Manson mess into, and then you've got what's going on there, But just her and him. What'd you do with him? Well, he had this, like, I sat and watched an hour interview. I couldn't stomach it, of him. And who was it? It was Hugh Hefner interviewing them and knowing all the things that she had wrote and, getting out of how she just didn't even feel worthy to speak around him because he would always call her stupid and call her a blonde hag, you know, that she was beneath him and she didn't have anything to offer a conversation and just sit there and, you know, let everybody look at you and shut up. That was the way he was. And she let him do it. For what? You know, what do they, is it a grooming thing? Is it a, you know, I can make you a star? There it is. And just very, to me, she seemed very Marilyn-like in some ways of, I've got to work harder to, you know, prove my craft to do this. And she's doing these shit parts, you know, but, you know, even in the little parts, like she did a Mr. Ed, you know, where she's the girl on the bench getting kissed by the Navy sailor, you know, the sailor that comes in, it's a bit part, or Mr. Ed. She was on like Beverly Hillbillies and stuff like that, you know, bit parts. But for her movies, I think she did 3 with him. Or is it 2 with him? Might have been 2. And then she did Valley of the Dolls. And it wasn't long after that she was gone. So, and she got really bad reviews on Valley of the Dolls. But what's Valley of the Dolls? Valley of the Dolls is all about these women going through all this crap, and they're into pills and alcohol, and basically they're, you know, the author will tell you they're loosely based on a couple of the stars that were out at that time. It's no secret that one of them was based on Judy Garland. The one that Patty Duke played was based on Judy Garland. And Judy Garland was actually going to be in that movie. And they had hired her. And Patty Duke tells the story of she was just enamored when she walked in the door. She was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's Judy Garland. But she had to keep the director she said it was a horribly mean director. And this is Patty Duke saying this, by the way. And I'm paraphrasing. You know, you want to see the interview, it's on the inner tubes. So she's describing all this. Well, the director kept making her wait. Judy Garland, by now, Judy Garland is, you know, well into her crazy cycle of drugs and alcohol and this and that, and just so used to taking whatever she needed to do to do the next thing. Well, the director kept making her wait and wait and wait and wait. By the time they got her, they kept pumping her full of drinks, all her little entourage. They kept feeding her all her pills and whatnot. And by the time she got up there, she couldn't do it. So the director fired her. Valley of the Dolls. Now, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying it's what happened. That's per Patty Duke. She was there. And then she said she felt horrible about it. They had no business hiring her in the condition she was in. It was going for the name. And she said, so Judy Garland bounces back and opens at the Palace. And she's like, oh, that's amazing. She pulled herself together. And now she's opening at the Palace. She goes, I want to go see her. And she goes and she gets in the audience to see Judy Garland. She says she came out. And you know what she came out in? The suit from the Valley of the Dolls. She left with it. I was like, okay. Patty thought that was funny. I did too. So, but this story right here isn't funny at all. Something I had started digging into, I want to say it's late 70s. I was still in high school. And was looking into all of this. There was a crazy amount of these Steve and I have talked about it. Nutso Satan movies, you know, like Running from the Devil, and it was just 10,000 different ones, you know. Some of them really cheesy, a lot of them really cheesy, bad. There were some that really kind of freaked you out, be like Prince of Darkness. I think that was a little later. That one had some substance to it. That was John Carpenter, I believe. And then you had a couple of them that really got up there. And the one that did it was Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. And that one had a lot of controversy to it. That one actually had some momentum behind it. It had some talent. It had Mia Farrow. Well, she's not very talented, but it had a name. And it had that And it was just the way it was done. Very haunting and haunting book. The other one's the one you're going to see tonight, little pieces of it anyway. This vampire thing that she was in. I watched part of it. It's very creepy. There's a definite, I don't know quite how to explain it. It's kind of like a behind the curtain suspense and building of, what's going to happen next. And you never were really sure back then, because they did some obscure stuff with these, crazy movies. So the thing about it, and I can't pull anything on source on this, but I'm getting it from a lot of background stuff, and some of the things I'm picking up here is Anton LaVey was very involved with some of those. And there was definitely rituals and things like that in it, and they were putting stuff right in your face, And it does have its effect on people who might not be at their best. Let's say their spiritual immune system, let's just put it that way, might be a little low. And it can hit you. It can hit you hard. And I think it probably did affect a lot of people, if not just in the fear factor part and that testing of what we can get away with. What are people going to allow us to get away with? Because again, you're still in that, gosh, I don't even know if they had that, the whole run-in PG, kind of system, because it was G, and then it was PG, parental guidance, and then it was, I think it went to R straight away, and then to X. And then somewhere along the line, I think when my kids were younger, they started ending up PG-13, because we want to get a couple more people in the theater. It didn't matter. If it was on and you could get a hold of it, you sneak into the theater, you're going to see it. If they put it on TV, everything was cut, right? But there was still enough in there. Now, if you think about the whole theme of Rosemary's Baby, it would be very simple to take somebody like Roman Polanski and Sharron Tate and the times that they were in and where they lived and what was going on around, and not have any problem imagining that they might have been into some crazy stuff. You don't have to imagine too hard. This guy had her, the power play, he told her what to dress, what kind of makeup to wear, how to wear it, what to say, where to do it, what to be in, what parts to take, he made her do 75, 78 takes on like some little bit thing in this movie they were in, just trying to just completely break her down. And she was willing to do it. And I think that's one of the saddest things, because again, you look at this really beautiful woman and you watch some of the things she did. And of course, she was gorgeous. That's what she had going for her. She was that, from young age, she was in the little pageants and Miss Cherry Picker of Wyoming or whatever it was the heck she was. They start early and they start realizing, this is what I have to give. It has to be this way. And this guy is more important to me because he has a name. He has a, no, honey, he's not. And I don't really see that much brilliance there. Right? That's just my thought. That's my opinion. And when I was growing up with lots of sisters and, paying attention, older sisters, you see a lot going on, right? There was no way I would ever do this or let somebody. Because again, I went in the Army at a time when, you're walking in there with some situations, you know what I mean? It's like, no way would you sell yourself this short. I'll earn it. Thank you very much. Just like everybody else. This broke my heart. Because she went through some stuff. And you'll hear things a little bit here, a little bit in another one. I think we're going to play with Steve. And that's why I'm doing this. Like you might see like a segment a week ago and it had a little bit on George Reeves. And then you see another one had a little bit on George Reeves and Superman. But you're getting a little bit from each one. And you're getting it as the information peeled and was allowed into the public and what came known. And this one's still got stuff being uncovered. And I think what happened to her, what she allowed to be, what she did to herself in a lot of ways. At any time you get out of a situation, somebody's very powerful and has a lot of pull, you might be stuck. There's things you can do. Don't ever let that happen. Don't ever let somebody took her whole life, turned it inside out. And he didn't kill her. But I can tell you the road they were going down, if that didn't happen, something else was going. Because he was damn mean to her. And the things he had her do and the things she allowed him to do to her. And this is how Hollywood works. It's blackmail, it's control, it's power, it's who you know, it's who's going to cover it up, who's going to do this, and lives are being destroyed left and right. Lives are being destroyed left and right. Nobody has a right to do that to you. Nobody has the right to take a 13-year-old girl and do what he did. Now, there's more than one witness on that. So I'm not just saying it's, I read a little blurb in a newspaper. I watched the whole interview. I looked at the trial that was beginning to come. Never got to fruition because he left the country. Nothing else says guilt like running away. Angelica Houston knocked on the door. Do you ever hear the story? She was dating Jack Nicholson. Roman Polanski takes a 13-year-old girl whose mother drops her off with him to take pictures. And before you know it, she's naked in a hot tub getting her pictures taken and winds up in a room with Roman Polanski, a 40-something-year-old man, a 13-year-old girl. What is she going to do? Her interview's on the YouTube. You can watch it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he admitted it in many, hey, Sir Bowden, admitted in many interviews. And there's like two men sitting at a table having this discussion. He goes, well, I don't really know. I kind of like young girls and they seem to like me. And the other guy's sitting in front, having a conversation on television. The people are watching this. And the guy says, well, don't you think that could possibly turn out to, something bad could happen down the line? And he's just so intelligent and smart. He just looks up and says, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess something could happen, but what are you going to do? This is after he was accused. We allowed that to happen. People still put him up on a pedestal. Why? And how does that happen in a society that's supposed to be civilized? I ask you. Because if she decided to let him control her, it's on her. It's sad that she allowed it. It's sad that it happened, but it was her choice. She was an adult. I was a 13-year-old little girl. It's my thoughts. It ain't gonna be pretty. Oh, of course, Brian, but that doesn't mean we need to let it keep happening.
Lovely Texas-born Sharron Tate won many local beauty contests and appeared in TV commercials. Like other young hopefuls, she traveled to Hollywood, and by the early 60s, she was appearing in shows like The Beverly Hillbillies, where she played Mr. Drysdale's secretary. Soon after, she was chosen to be one of the original girls in the Petticoat Junction TV series. But just before shooting began, she was replaced in the show by actress Janine Riley, when the producers discovered that Tate had posed nude and semi-nude for magazines like Playboy. Movies valued her newly revealed sexy image, and soon she was playing romantic parts opposite stars like Tony Curtis. And also Dean Martin in The Wrecking Crew. Her most famous part was in the film version of Jacqueline Suzanne's novel, Valley of the Dolls, where she played the role of Jennifer.
There is a Jennifer at every country club. The girl who is absolutely beautiful and whose body is magnificent. But there is a certain vulnerableness in every beautiful blonde girl, more so than a brunette, oddly enough. A brunette may be just as vulnerable, but she strikes people as being able to take care of herself. Sharron Tate is playing Jennifer.
I don't go into the person as thinking of her as just sexy. I would stop and I would think, well, how is she mentally, and what moves this into that? And therefore, I don't really think of of the characters as being a sex symbol or sex goddess or whatever you would like to call it.
Sharron Tate's first introduction to Roman Polanski happened in London. Tate and current boyfriend Jay Sebring, known as the hairstylist to the stars, were attending a party. Film producer Martin Ranselhoff introduced her to Polanski and suggested that she would be perfect for a film that director Polanski was about to do. The film was a horror spoof, eventually to be called The Fearless Vampire Killers.
The Fearless Vampire Killers. Oh, pardon me, but your teeth are in my neck. Sharron Tate.
The relationship between Polanski and Tate got off to a rocky start, but the two fell in love and were married in 1968. Interestingly enough, Tate's former boyfriend, Jay Sebring, who had lost Tate to Polanski, remained friends with both of them. Sebring, who had a reputation of supplying drugs to many of his Hollywood friends, was rumored to be supplying Polanski and Tate with drugs as well. Tate's life with Polanski would be a short and tragic one. On August 8, 1969, she became a victim of one of the bloodiest and most violent murder sprees in Hollywood history. It all began after Tate and friends had turned away a disturbed stranger who had come to the door of her rented Beverly Hills mansion looking for a prior tenant. A heated argument ensued, and the stranger left vowing vengeance on all of them. That stranger was Charles Manson, a deranged cult leader who later sent his followers to murder the pregnant Sharron Tate, along with friends, including former beau Jay Sebring. With Sebring's death and Polanski's absence from the murder scene, the police first suspected that Polanski may have arranged the crime. He was later cleared when it was learned that Manson had ordered the slayings. Manson believed he was receiving secret commands from Beatles, twisting them in his demented mind to justify criminal acts, including murder. His followers actually left some of these words and phrases scrawled in their victims' blood at the scene of the crime. Contrary to some people's belief, Manson was not at the scene of the massacre, but had commanded his disciples to carry out the execution of everyone in the house, as he had vowed to do when he was turned away. In an ironic twist of fate, one of Sharron Tate's first films, Eye of the Devil, depicts a mysterious cult terrorizing a local community, a chilling prediction of her own real fate. Sharron Tate never fulfilled her dreams of superstardom in her lifetime, but the international headlines her bizarre and violent death caused prompted the reissue of some of her films, with Tate being upgraded to star billing. No one in Hollywood has ever paid more dearly for their fame.
Okay. So that's your brief synopsis of the situation there. And you got to see a couple of cuts of her in different films and parts and stuff she had. It was so fast. It was a short amount of career. I don't know, Scott. I'm not 100% sure. So if you're sure about that, Roman Polanski's never come back in the country. I thought he was back here for an awards thing or some kind of. Wasn't there some scuttlebutt at that point? Glenn, are you still here? I think there was something like that, but I'm not sure about it. So let's just leave that one on the table. Hey, Sir Bowden, everybody that's come in, thank you so much for being here. Hey, Echo. And I love you, Midwest. Hell of a show over there, right? Lynn's something, man. And again, I'm sorry she went through all that, but at least she's here to tell us about it. If I missed you, I apologize. Welcome, welcome. Chi, I saw you in here. Welcome. So I'm trying to be so careful. I'm bumbling around because I'm just, this kind of thing just burns me in so many different directions. And again, helter skelter, I grew up reading about it. Well, not really grew up, but teen years. Horrible. I remember when it first came out. I remember when Vincent Bugliosi came out with his book. That's all you got in your face was like bam, bam, bam. I'm trying to remember exactly when all that went down and where I was at the time. So much going on at the time. I mean, it seemed like Rosemary's Baby had just come out, and then it was something else. I know Amityville book came out. I want to say like, the way everything hit. I mean, it was so much going on. And that whole satanic panic, with the movies and stuff. I mean, Saturday, you turn on the show coming out of New York or Chicago or whatever. You had some cheesy, somebody's wearing a cape, putting a pentagram on the floor, and somebody's pet's hanging on the front porch. And the next thing you know, you're trying to help people get out of a house that aren't listening to you because you're screaming at the TV. It's like, you shouldn't even be there. What the hell are you doing still there? That was Saturday morning. Or Godzilla, But it was so many of these, like I said, and there was a reason for that. You got to dig. There was a lot of, I think, all that stuff that was going on. All Led Zeppelin and Jimmy Page and the whole, was it Anton LaVey's house he had? Or was it the other one? Was it Crowley? It was Aleister Crowley, wasn't it? I can't remember. Anyhow, everything's going on at the same time. Your parents are home playing your record albums backwards to see if it's telling you to do, stuff you shouldn't be doing. This happened, And then they found shit on the records backwards. I mean, anybody was there, can I get an amen? Because it happened, You had Kiss putting their blood in the ink for their comic book. I mean, just there's nothing new, in the hemisphere. I mean, Alice Cooper and, the Beatles and Alice Cooper and dead baby dolls all over the place. And I think Alice Cooper had a guillotine on the stage, didn't he? Wasn't he cutting the heads off of something? I know Ozzy bit the head off a bat. My point is, there's nothing new. And the stuff that's going on now is nothing new, but they just turned it up. They put it on steroids. And you can look back and you can see where it's coming from and how, the hems of the dresses kept getting higher. So, what's next? Oh, it's like, I don't know. But if we don't learn from this stuff, could nobody see, these people going down the path? How many times have you heard it? Well, we knew she was in trouble. Oh, we tried to tell her those pills weren't going to be good for her. But the studio. So I'm looking for my water, excuse me. The director's in charge. Everybody's, under contract. It's in her contract. They had to sign a morality clause. They made it such a big deal. It's like you go in and they have this thing. This is how you will conduct yourself. You will never be seen doing any of these things. I'm not saying you can't do them. You will never be seen doing these things, If sign of morality. It just seems to me that every time there's a situation like that, now an oath is different, but there too. That's where you're going to have the most problems. Sign this morality clause. Okay. I bet them things ain't handed out anymore. What do you think? They're probably so bad now if they did try to sign them, they probably burst into flames. So anyway, this guy, man. So many stories. And is that any excuse, though, And again, I think it has a lot to do with paranormal and the supernatural. I really do. Because I think it's been spiritual warfare going all the way back. Then you don't think that's the very definition. These kids get caught up. I mean, I harken back to problem didn't come out of thin air. Where did it start? What's causing it? Is it how we're treating our kids? Is it what we're feeding our kids? Is it what we're letting them put in our kids? letting other people teach our kids, and other people raise our kids, keeping us so busy that we don't have time to spend with our kids, and we're just grateful to have kids with a roof over their head, and that's hard enough. How do we get that way? It's just an idea, but if you go back and you think about where everybody started getting split up, you started getting out of these tribes, out of your tribe, out of your family, to make it on your own. You need to do this, and this. Put your babies in the daycare, put your old folks in the nursing home. And bye. Right? Again, just a thought. Didn't mean to rant, but it's inevitable. I'm drinking funny honey, and we're talking about stars and debauchery and Satanism. So it's a chance things are going to get a little crazy. So, and again, how many stories like this? So how can we stop it? Do we just keep sitting back and going, oh, there she goes? Just doing my job. I think we have to put our foot down and go, no, this is wrong. You can't blackmail me. You can't cancel me. You don't have anything I want. Stand up. And what's happened to people in the past that's done that? Well, they lost their job. They got blacklisted. They did whatever. It's happening now. And people have whistleblowers. We want to tell you about the corruption. But when we come out, everybody looks down at the whistleblower because now he's a snitch. Well, what do you want? You got to bring the evil to the surface. You got to call it what it is. And you got to, that's it. Bring it into the light. Till it's just out of existence. Because it can't stand to be around the light. If you constantly let darkness take over, dark it will be. And the fact that people stood by, adults stood by, and watched this man do that to that young girl, knocked on the door. Angelica admits it herself. She tells the story. She's dating Jack Nicholson at the time. And then he goes on TV and talks about it and boasts about it, and everybody says what an intelligent man he is. I think he was a babbling idiot. Did you see that movie? It's my opinion. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't care what that is. I'm just offering it out there. You make your own choice. Why are we putting these people on a pedestal? Why are we making stupid people famous? Why are we not picking out people in our town, like that mom that always shows up at the bus stop to help watch everybody else's kids? Because everybody, that person? Or the crosswalk person that made sure my kid got across that street every day, rain, shine, whatever. These are your heroes. These are your hometown heroes, and they used to get talked about. The teacher that stays back with the kid and actually teaches and tries to help that kid, get his confidence back so he can continue, reading and stay up with the rest of the class. Not making a big deal out of it. Just point out a couple things because maybe their mom or their dad or whoever's in care of them doesn't know that. So we take an extra, how to do it and watch out for each other. When I was a kid, everybody in the neighborhood knew whose kid you were and your mom, and your mom got a call for you, got home if you was messing up. And just lucky if she didn't tell you, just whip them right there. Let them go back outside and play. I'm trying to clean the house. But you watched. People paid attention. And you knew the crazy person at the end of the street. And you stayed away from them. You let them be. Just kept an eye on it. They told everybody to keep an eye on it. You know what I mean? These people should have never gotten away with this crap. But they did. So, pisses me off a little bit. I'm going to share something with you here. Look at this. Let me see if I can find one. Boy, I'm hitting buttons. Look out, Ted. Hang on. Seatbelts. Put up the seatbelt sign, Ted. If you get bumpy, I'm pushing buttons. Oh, let it be there. Let it be there. Is that it? Doggone it. Hang on, fellas. We'll get it. Hey, talk about somebody tell a joke. Had it all set up for you. Oh, where is that? Make sure I get the right one. Give me a second. Yep, got it. Yes, it is, honey. Hold on. Fixed it. Oh, wrong one. Doggone it. Got cocky. Hold on. This is it. Okay. Tell me if you can hear this.
Who plays the role of Jennifer in Valley of the Dolls. Sharron, you're a Texas girl, aren't you?
Yes, I was born in Dallas.
How much time did you spend there?
No time. No time at all. I went from there to Washington State and then to Italy.
But we can still claim you in Texas.
Sure.
Sharron, had you read Valley of the Dolls before you were cast?
Mm-hmm. I had.
Did you see yourself in the role of Jennifer?
Well, out of all the characters in the book, that was the one that I liked the most, the one that I had sympathy for, really.
Jennifer is referred to as the body beautiful, and you're a very lovely girl, and it's certainly good casting. But that's a label that most actresses don't like. Do you resent it?
Well, I don't mind if I have a nice body or someone says I'm nice looking, but the whole tag put together, the conception of it, excuse me, is I don't think very complimentary, because a lot of times it comes out the wrong way.
Wasn't it McCall's that did a story on you
No.
recently? What was the magazine?
Saturday Evening Post.
Saturday Evening Post, okay. Were you pleased with that story, Sharron?
That's difficult to answer. I was pleased with it. It was a fun story. I laughed at it. I enjoyed it very much. But I didn't really take it down and analyze it, because then you get hurt by lots of things.
But the comparison that you are the new Marilyn Monroe, how did you react to that?
Well, nobody could ever be Marilyn Monroe, in my words. I think she was a fantastic one person, and nobody could ever duplicate that. So I don't really pay any attention to those kind of comments.
You actually, Valley of the Dolls is your fourth picture, is it not?
Yes.
And you have 3 pictures that are still unreleased, so we haven't actually seen you on the screen yet. But what is the best advice as a young actress that you've been given?
Work. Just go to classes, study, because it doesn't come easy. It's a lot of hard work.
Are you in the school here at 20th?
No.
How have you gotten your training then?
Well, I studied here with an acting coach. I studied with Lee Strasberg in New York and various places.
What would
you? Okay, so I wanted to show you, Sharron, and it's a little different here because we're so used to saying, especially in the genre, true crime, paranormal, supernatural, all the stuff, whether you're coming at it from the investigative on CeeLo Drive, or, one of the most amazing orb pictures I ever saw was thought to be, I cannot say it was, but the person showing me felt that it was her and her child. And that is, if true, very sad. First of all, why is she still there? The house isn't even there anymore. She would be stuck to the land. Or are they calling her back because they won't leave it alone? And so many different levels. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it back when I was a kid in high school. And you're hearing about Helter Skelter and the White Album and the Beatles and the whole thing, the Squeaky Fromes and the Are You Kidding Me? And they did what? And Folger, what? Coffee. I mean, that's what was going on at the time. And then you read the book and you followed the narrative that they wanted you to follow. And rumors fell away as other things came up. And I believe you heard there that they at first looked towards, Roman Polanski because that was a very tumultuous relationship and it was known. There was a lot of, I believe he was in England at the time. He could not get a passport in time. She wanted him to come home. He was out there having an affair with some chippy, and she knew it. And all this she said, and her family, and her sister, and it's been backed by friends and things like that. And Sebring was talking about it because they were very close still. A lot going on. And how I understand it is the embassy, I think, was closed and he couldn't go. And it held him up a couple days, which was too late because this had happened. And of course, everybody knows the story. If you don't, we will be doing it later. And I didn't want to focus on that tonight, but the short end of it is it was said that Charles Manson, under control and screwing with minds and many other things, got a group of completely drugged out wildings to go out and just commit murder for him. And they hit this house and she was in it. And so were several other people. Jay Sebring being one of them. Because even though she dated him and broke up with him, as you heard in the story, it's pretty factual. That, as far as I can tell at this point. And they were still very close. In fact, they were having a conversation, and the conversation was, and again, I totally agree with you, Aunt Edna, that, it's their business, their personal life, and, but again, they're stars, and they're putting stuff out there, and they're recommending things, and they're, it's always been that. It's like you put yourself out there, it's a little bit more. And then if you put yourself a little further, you're up for more stuff, just like people call me stuff. It's none of my business what people think of me. I'm just here trying to give what I can give and trying to have a conversation with a couple of my friends. So she is having a conversation with her friend, Jay Sebring. He must have been a heck of a dude because here he loved her. She breaks off with him to go up with this, Anyhow, power, it's all power. You telling me if that guy wasn't a director and he didn't have money and he didn't tell her that he could get her to where she needed to go, she would have had a hamburger with him, let alone anything else. Come on. It's all about climbing the ladder and who's climbing who. And the girl was pregnant. And she knew he wasn't going to want it. This is her words, paraphrasing, but her words, conversation. The whole thing is out there. If you want to hear it verbatim, please. And he said, you know what you need to do? You need to wait another month before you tell him. Because at that time, it would have been too late to do something about it. So that conversation, just those few sentences there, gives me a good idea of, okay, he's not hot for this. He doesn't want her to have it. She was scared. And I take that into consideration with some other things that I heard, which I started to bring up earlier, but I had to think about it a little bit. The whole Rosemary's Baby thing. Because I've heard some backdoor info that he was very into that. And so was she. anything to bring power and speed things along a little, let's say. Because they were doing lots of very odd tapes and videos. And he had her very much in control, where he invited people over and instructed those. That's opening up a whole nother world, where all this nice and neat, the tombstone with her name on it and the name of the baby underneath. The baby that if he had gotten there, he might have. It's all dog and pony show. It's bread and circus. But inside, there's some real people that got broken along the way somehow. And again, just like ghosts, it's like anything. It can be changed or learned from. How do we stop it? How do we recognize these things before they finish like this? Well, it's hard. Because you got Hollywood. You got whatever the government at the time was up to. That's a broad brush. Again, when you're talking about Laurel Canyon, I don't care who says that was bunk. There's some meat on that bone. Somewhere. We hadn't quite put our finger on it exactly yet. We've come close, I think. I think we're skirting around it, but I think we're getting some. We're clipping it. Because there's too much going on. Timothy Leary, the LSD, coming in from the other side. All these testings, these live clinical tests that were done on the public that they had no knowledge of. Imagine that. All of this is going on at the same time. Around the Sharron Tate time. And she's doing this when she was sitting there doing that interview. That was in would she just get right back? I watched another one. It was really kind of quirky. It was her and Merv Griffin walking around downtown London. What's the name of it? Canterbury Street, the fashion and everything in the 60s and 70s. I have that wrong. Somebody correct me on that. But anyway, it was really cheeky because there's Merv Griffin in his sport coat and his little turtleneck, young, spry, walking with Sharron Tate down the street, asking her about fashion, and they're talking about, well, now it's the plastic mini dresses are in, and so she's acting all cheeky. Was it Carnaby Street? Thank you both. And anyway, it is delightful, and this is, again, bread and circus, right? Because that's the same girl that all this other stuff is going on with. And she's in this house, and Patty Duke, you can get, it's all like interchangeable, these houses and people going and staying in groups all at the same time. It's crazy to imagine. I mean, you had the Beach Boys, and you had this one over here, and this whole, that whole area. Mind-boggling to think. But to think that there was something going on behind the scenes that was trying to orchestrate a lot of this and push it and ignite certain issues to sway something, it was going on then. What's going on then? And then, you're going to think, here's a quick, it feels like a hard left, but think back now, look back at talking about these gangsters, and Al Capone, and Hoover, and seeing all the things that Hoover did. Long time in his position. His number one thing, get blackmail on everybody. I want pictures in manila envelopes, and I want them now. Do it. They had motels. Boy, we could get into some stuff. Trust me, it'll all come out in the JFK stuff. But look, as a little preview, look up a little guy named Bobby Baker. Bobby Baker was LBJ's right-hand man. LBJ and Hoover were buddies. Big time. They were both after the same thing. I want dirt on everybody. I want control. I want power. I want control. I want money. And I want fame. And some people are willing to sell their soul to do it. Or pretty near. Because even people like Patty Duke, and I've never heard her involved in any of this, but her name was around because she lived there. So just because you hear a name doesn't mean they were involved in the debauchery. But at that house, they said people go in there and walking in and out, and there'd be orgies going on all over the place. People in and out. You could have bumped into anybody. And here she is 1 minute on that street. On that street, walking with Merv Griffin, looking all prim and proper and just as sweet and lovely as, any young girl could ever be, Americana, whatever. And the next minute, she's sitting with Roman Polanski having an interview with Hugh Hefner, and just straight out, well, this about sex, and pretty soon people are just running around naked and doing this, and we believe in free this and free that. And that was the times. But at what point does it go from that to now we're bringing in ritual and things into it and starting to bring that kind of stuff into it? Because I believe there was a lot of that going on too. I really do. Because of the videos. Now, there's a little story, another little anecdote about when the cops went in there after the massacre, pretty much you could call it. At least it was a mess. Unfortunate mess. Yeah, power to it. They're searching through Polanski's garage, and up in the rafters, they find these videotapes. Now, you'll hear certain authors and certain people that come out and speak on it say it was one tape. You'll have certain people say, it was a box of tapes. And the official story that came out was one tape, and at least right after the fact. And it was one tape, and it was her and Polanski, and it was a home video of them, and out of respect. No. It's too many different sources, too many different references leading back to it was Polanski directing the videos and a whole bunch of different cast of characters, one leading lady. What kind of a life is that? All for what? So you can value the dolls and get your picture on the magazine? What causes a person to accept that, to gain that? Sounds a little crazy to me, but I think that's a big part of the story. And I took the time tonight to talk a little bit about that story because I'm going to be doing the other part of the story coming up. And this will be great reference. That's why I wanted to hear you see her speak. See what you think about it. Go watch a couple interviews with him and see what you think about that. Just so you can have that in your thoughts later when you're helping me try to discern the mess that's coming. Because we're going to do the Manson killings. We are going to do that whole thing. But I'm holding out for that author. Because very much like the Velisca with Dr. Epperly, I think that's the route to go. Because what you were fed with Vincent Bugliosi was an absolute maniac. I don't know what you know about him or anything. God rest his soul, But I'm just tired of being lied to. And I think it's really important for our discernment to be able to look at these things honestly and, help each other get through it and think about, hey, there's some lessons to be learned here. And if we're going to stop the dark, we got to figure out what's causing it, how it got away with it, how it fooled us, how it tricked us, how it pulled black magic shit on us, it threw bad energy on us, blinded us, lulled us into it, made us think it was acceptable. Because none of that's acceptable. And what I think the most unacceptable thing to me, in a lot of ways, is the way they use that child to gain sympathy for that man who stood by and cried. Now, they might have been real tears. Being sick of being lied to. I'm not buying it. And I don't think she deserved what she got. We'll look in the future into how all that kind of happened. May have happened. And like I said, if I can get one of these two authors, we'll be on a good track. If not, I'll do the best to bring it to you. But we're going to break it down, because I think there's a little bit more going on there than we've been being told, just like everything else. Oh, here's a little sideline. We were talking about Laurel Canyon and all that stuff. And, Steve and I was digging real deep into it and everything. Very interesting. And we talked about all the different artists whose parents turned out to be, military intelligence or, somewhere involved in deep, right? Guess what Sharron Tate's daddy did? There's too much coincidence upon coincidence upon coincidence. At what point does it come around, bite itself in the tail, become a hard fact? And that goes for everything going on today. What went on then, what went on with, George Reeves or any of those cover-ups, Maryland. And I'm a little agitated by it because I'm having a hard time. There's a friend of mine who does a lot of digging very deep in some dangerous territory. And we're a little worried right now about him. On top of everything else. People just try and tell the truth. And people who don't want you to know. Crazy, right? And Steve tells, we were on a radio, Steve and I can't remember, a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned that it's absolutely nuts that somebody was writing on, Lincoln. How deep did we dig on Lincoln? Somebody was in the wrong place at the wrong time, an author doing a book. A little too famous, I guess. Gone. Right there at his desk. Something's going on, people. It's a lot scarier than some of the something under your bed. I guess it just depends on your perspective, But we can uncover it. Because when you bring it to the light, what happens? The best disinfectant out there is sunlight. We'll talk about it. And we'll talk about it again. And it just kills me at how it amazes me how many parallels there are with the supernatural, paranormal, true crime. Like we're talking about tonight with the cover-ups. This by no means is the end of Sharon's story. I just wanted to kind of introduce you to her a little bit tonight. And I appreciate I'm a little sad about Sunny, and I'm a little sad about some other stuff going on. And I got it. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just, those life punches, they get you right in the heart or shock you for a second. You're like, whoa. And you remember how fragile we are, right? And then we come back and we sort it and we talk about all these wonderful stories and understand how powerful we are and what they don't want you to know. And that's it. It's all right here. Right here. Anytime two or more come in agreement. Sending prayers out to Sonny, he felt those. Sending healing out to somebody in the chat that needed a little bit of extra warm hug. They feel it every time. I get mediums and psychics and different friends and people on here that actually feel it when they tune into the chat. They said you could actually feel it. And that's why a lot of people don't make it through the intro or don't make it through my babbling, because they're not good at looking between the lines and pulling out that important information of, holy shit, this is going on today. This stuff is happening. This stuff that they pulled over our eyes in the 70s is happening today. The stuff that they pulled over our eyes with James Dean or pestered Steve McQueen at the worst time in his life. We didn't get to him tonight. We'll get him tomorrow, because that's a good one. Steve should be there for that one. I just love when Steve's here, you know. We have such a good time. But what they did to that man was unconscionable. Leave him alone. He's trying to die with dignity and going out like a man. There's one of your, you want to see? You know how you're supposed to handle yourself? There's a perfect example. Him, Robert Mitchum. Steve McQueen leaned into it. Said, it's none of your business. I'm doing what I'm doing. And they tried to make it a spectacle. If you don't know what I'm talking about, he was dying of cancer. And he decided to try some alternative methods. And they made it a big deal. And then a lot of other people were trying, got an idea. Hey, I'm going to try it too. And then they turned that into a thing. So, they can't leave anything alone. They take things that are good and, you know the deal. And you know it because you pay attention and you're doing stuff like this. And you're sorting through these ordinary stories that people are so used to hearing. They just, and you can't blame people. I've done it for years. You hear a story about so-and-so and you think, oh yeah, isn't he the guy that, yeah, that's the one. We all do it. And then maybe later on we'll pass along the information. That's why right now I'm trying to sort it as best I can to go, you know what? Yeah. Pretty sure about this fact. Because I'll tell you the difference between a conspiracy theory and a cold hard fact. Here lately, it's about 6 months. But anyway, I digress. We talked about that too, the origin of those two words put together. And you look at it and you try the way that they've programmed or got us used to, tricked us into using it so much that it just meant something else. Look, for conspiracies to come together and do harm to another thing or person or whatever happens. People have theories about it because they're usually there. And something's usually up. And we're going to try to uncover a lot of it. We got a lot of good shows coming up. I love y'all being here. Thanks for being here during the week and little pop-up shows. I try to do them when I can because I love being in there with you guys and getting another kind of a boost. I'll take that booster in the middle of the week, and we just get together and have a good time and listen to an old mystery. And like I said, I got some good ones coming up for, just a little bit of the Irish, It'll be fun. I like that. I love the lore. I love all that. Gosh, I wish I could get there. I thought maybe I'd be able to get there, in my lifetime to see all that. It's got to be gorgeous. But thank God for the internet. You can go pretty much anywhere you want to go now. So I highly recommend we do that. Maybe get some nice. If you have pictures and you want to send them in, we can feature them. We're gonna have a nice guest that night. So if get back from the bars, get back from the parades, you put the bagpipes up, and hang the kilt on over the fireplace mantle or whatever. Get you some green beer and come here, and we'll have a good time. Because I'm gonna need some people showing up that are Irish. Because I'm not. I'm Scottish, but I'm gonna give you all your day. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me rattle on. It's been a rough week. I feel good. I feel much better. I appreciate you being here and listening to me. And thanks for remember Sonny's family, and maybe go in there and if our mods could drop the link to his channel I'm sure that just hitting that and giving a sub if you're not a sub, and a small way to connect into that energy and maybe give his family and loved ones and the people that did, were regulars on his show, feel that little boost of energy, little positive vibe, and that would be nice, little connection in. So tomorrow night we will be doing a little bit more of this and talking to my friend Steve. I have also one more request, if I may. I have a good friend who is a vet who needs as much healing energy sent his way if you possibly can. And he'll get it because I'm thinking of him right now. So just send it and I'll send it off to him. He stood for us. And he never dropped his guard. So please, for David, send it. I thank you. Never underestimate the intestinal fortitude of a soldier. And don't ever underestimate yours. I love you, light workers. Thanks for being here. Thanks for putting up with me. And as a gift for putting up with my nonsense tonight and being here with me. How about a little skeleton death fairy on the way out? Love y'all.